certainly the parliamentary budget officer is not impressed with the economic plans and the budget planning of the Harper government. The budget officer who was, this is credit to Stephen Harper for appointing an independent parliamentary budget officer. It's a great thing to have. Unfortunately, ever since they appointed a knowledgeable independent budget officer, they've disagreed with every piece of advice they've given him. They've resorted to the usual tactic of the Harper Conservative government, which is to attack the messenger personally, to suggest that he isn't really very good with numbers. They appointed him. Kevin Page is a very significant senior government economist and finance expert. He came right out of Finance Canada. He knows what he's doing. And he looks at the plans from Jim Flaherty and Stephen Harper and says, well, guys, you've got a structural deficit. And a structural deficit may sound like a complicated economic term, but it's pretty simple. All of us understand it in running households. You can't spend more money than you earn. When you do that, you get deeper in debt all the time. That's a structural deficit. And when you are spending more money than you take in, as the Harper government has been doing from day one, the first thing you do is you eliminate all the surpluses we used to experience in Canada. We wrestled to the ground the deficit in the 90s. It's significant pain. We saw downloading from federal to provincial to municipal. We saw real cuts in health care, real cuts in education. We went through some very significant and painful belt tightening, some that we should never really forgive because of all the damage it did, particularly to our healthcare system. But we were in surplus land. We were doing well in our budget management. We didn't have a deficit. We still had some debt. We didn't have a deficit. And in September 2008, before Wall Street collapsed through hedge fund shenanigans and gambling at the global casino, before that happened, the Stephen Harper economic whiz kids had eliminated our surpluses and put Canada in a deficit position. What was the next brilliant piece of advice from our economic wunderkind, Stephen Harper? I was in the debates with him in 2008. Remember that? I was actually allowed in debates once. And what Stephen Harper said then, I remember really well, because I was the only leader prepared to say what was obvious. Canada is in a recession. We're entering a recession. Do you remember what Stephen Harper said? If we were going to be in a recession, we'd be in one already. Remember? Yeah. It's amazing how short memories the national media has, too. Then we went into his first economic statement in November of 2008. And while the rest of the world was noticing that we were in the largest recession with the risk of heading into a depression, certainly the biggest economic meltdown since the 1920s, what financial statement came from Jim Flaherty and Stephen Harper? A projection for 5 years of surplus budgets. A projection that said we don't need an economic stimulus package, we're not in a recession, and we're posting a projection for 5 years of continued surpluses. It was only after the other parties in the House said, wait a minute, that's so absurd, we can't vote confidence in your government, that the government was shut down, as you recall, with the first prorogation. And then when the budget came out after prorogation, lo and behold, there was the economic stimulus package, and there were the big ticket items that would take us into deficit territory once again. So we now have the biggest debt we've had, $530 billion. We're back to paying $93 million a day in interest payments. And on top of that, we have a structural deficit because in a situation where you are spending more money than you are taking in, the first smart thing to do, I think we could all agree that the first smart thing to do would be to stop deciding that you need less money coming in. That's why it's idiotic to continue corporate tax cuts. It's not just a question of should you or shouldn't you. It's bad economics. It's bad economics. It's bad public policy. And no economist who looks at the Canadian budget would support the idea that we should keep cutting corporate taxes lower and lower and lower. Where we are right now, by the way, we used to, in the year 2000, corporate tax rates were 29%. When Stephen Harper formed government in 2006, they were down to 20%. Right now, we're at 16.5, and next year they want to take it to 15, which means we have the lowest corporate tax rates of any country in the OECD except Iceland. We're much competitive with the United States, way below U.S. corporate tax rates, and that's before you consider the advantages to Canadian corporations of our health care plan, which means they don't have to pay for health care plans for their workers, and the benefits of unemployment insurance. These are benefits to Canadian employers. There's no data anywhere that would say that corporate tax cuts are a good way to create jobs. In fact, it's the most expensive, worst way one could imagine to create jobs. So our policies are actually the economically sensible policies. Our policies in the Green Party are more fiscally sound, we're economically realistic, and stand up to economic scrutiny better than anything that you'll see from the Harper government. The status quo isn't working for democracy, and the status quo is sure as hell not working for our grandchildren, not working for those creatures who have no voice, not working for our hearts, our hopes, our souls. We know what we need, and we need change. We need change from the grassroots up. We need change that permeates the whole country and sends Canadians with a smile on their face to cast the vote they know, they believe in their hearts, to be the best way forward. It's time. Vote Green.